everyone, good to see you. Welcome to another meeting of Aroha Kaikorai Valley. We're a non-profit community group. And just for you, those of you that don't know, we're not political, we're not religious. We're not an activist group or a protest group, but we believe in awareness through education and actually doing things. So that's our mission, is to go and do stuff. There's been an epic amount of things happening in the last month since we were here. It's been really, really good. Before I get to that, we'll just talk about the health and safety. If there's a fire, an earthquake, something like that, we're going to assemble out here, okay? Don't run out into the traffic. So we're going to go out real calm. There's another fire exit out that way, right out the back and to the right. You need to unlock the slide door to get out that way, okay? Our trapping, so for those of you that have been watching on the side of the board on the building there or checking out on the website, you would have seen that we've had a little bit of a jump up in our numbers. And that's because we've inherited a whole lot of traps up here in Fraser's Gully. And these have come from City Sanctuary. So it means currently we're managing 479 traps on the ground. And because we've inherited those traps, we picked up a few extra numbers on our predators court, right? So it's bumped us up to 1,772 in total. Where were we? 1,065?
1,016.
Yeah. So that means, but it's still relevant because that's the whole of Kaikorai Valley. And what that means is that so far we've got 619 possums, 528 rats, 163 hedgehogs, 11 mustelids, which is your ferrets, stoats and weasels, and then other is mice. The occasional bird, things like that, right? So 451, mostly mice. It's pretty cool to see this thing coming together. Need a little bit of help with Fraser's Gully. Unfortunately, we can't get in there at the moment because it's so wet and slippy. I was in there a couple of weeks ago and it was pretty dry and it was rough as guts, so it'll be really nasty at the moment. We went to, when I say we, myself and Casey and Sean went up to Hikaroa, Mount Watkin last weekend and helped our sister project service all their A220 auto traps, so it was really cool. If you're interested in getting involved in something like that, just give us a yell. It was great to go and help them, hang out with some cool people and learn a whole bunch of stuff. It was great. Checked a whole lot of Doc 200 traps up there, and every single one that we checked had a hedgehog in it, which was super interesting. You should probably see all the hedgehogs disappear about now because they hibernate, but we're not quite sure what date they go to sleep. We've also had the Train the Trainer, Casey and Lily have been up at the marae for the last couple of days, learning all about water quality and the various ways to test water quality and to look at a stream and how to judge that kind of stuff, and testing for nitrates and phosphates, all kinds of things. It's super cool, really good to see. So we're going to carry on over the next few months. You'll see a lot of things start to get developed around water quality events and things like that. Today, this morning at 9 o'clock, I went and picked up a whole lot of Pic's peanut butter for us for trapping. I've got 40 boxes of 8 jars of 300 grams, which is more peanut butter than you can wave a stick at. Don't take it home, all right, because it's got a contamination that they detected in the factory. There's some plastic in some or all of it, so it's not fit for human consumption. But it is really high-end peanut butter for catching rats, right? I love it, so we're into it. One last little trapping thing. Shall I do that now, Beth? Is that right?
Oh, yeah, go for it,
Or am I going too soon? No, we'll do bird of the month.
Okay.
It's way more exciting. So, introduce you to Beth, who's our coordinator for Aroha Kaikorai Valley.
So yeah, my name is Beth, and I've been the administrator for Aroha Kaikorai Valley since September 2023. I now work for 7 hours of the week at Aroha Kaikorai Valley, and now I'm going to be talking about our bird of the month. We're going to be learning about our birds so that we can do bird counts, but in order to count the birds we need to know what they are. So we have a very cute bird of our month today, and it is the fantail, and isn't it cute? Let me see if I can play this. I don't think here, do I? Do I play it here? Yeah, so you can pretend you can hear the cute sound of the fantail. Isn't it just very, very, very cute? It's got wee eyebrows. It's got little wee stripes under its chin. It's perched with its little black legs on the branch, just being so adorable. It does have a scientific name, which I'm not going to pronounce that, but there are over 20 Māori names for it as well. If you're doing a quiz, what's the Māori word for fantail? Just say pi waka waka, but there are actually over 20 Māori names. It's 16 centimetres long and weighs a total of 8 grams. That's going to be important later. And it is endemic, so that means that that species is only found in New Zealand. Nowhere else in the world has our cute fantail. But there are other birds with that jack. I will try and attempt to write Ripidura. That genus is also found in India, Southeast Asia, Australia, and of course us. So there are fantail-like animals in other countries, but we're the only country with that cutie there. They are insect eaters, so they're not eating the flax flowers, they're eating insects, and the classification says not threatened, but they do have some threats as well, but we'll get into that too. There are 4 subspecies of fantail: North Island fantail, South Island fantail, Chatham Island fantail, and the extinct one is the Lord Howe Island fantail, which is an island from Australia in the middle of the Tasman Sea. So they had this species as well, but there are only 3 alive today. I don't know what the difference is between a North Island and South Island fantail. It's probably just at the molecular level. But the Chatham Island one, the tail is so much whiter. It is a very, very, very white tail compared with the North Island and the South Island one. I mean, they're juvenile. They look a wee bit awkward. Awkward teenager. But, you know, it's still got the fantail thing going on. Its little black legs and the broad bill at the base and cute black eyes. And you can kind of see the eyebrows. You're going to be coming in. But there's also black fantails and white fantails. So the black fantail is called the black morph. The normal one is sometimes called the pied morph. And the black one, I used to think it was a different species, but they can interbreed. It's just like some of us have black hair, some of us have blonde hair, some of us have brown hair, some of us have red hair. 5% of South Island fantails are black, so we get them here in Dunedin occasionally. In the North Island it's less than 1%, so bummer if you're in the North Island looking for a black fantail. We also get a white fantail when there's a mutation and it doesn't have the pigment. So that's similar to an albino. If it was an albino it would have red eyes as well, so it does have some pigment showing from its teeth, but this was one in Taranaki in 2020. It went absolutely viral because look how cute it is. It's a little white fantail. But it's sadly not found anymore. So they do only live for about 2 or 3 years. Maybe. Now, lots and lots of fantails are out there being cute, eating insects. But over the last wee while, people have said, well, for the top two, look at this cute fantail. And the one on the bottom left there, I put into the iNaturalist app, and the AI decided it could be a fantail. But anyone see anything wrong with these fantails? How are their tails looking compared with the bottom right one is a fantail, by the way. Look at the tail. Let's look at the bit over the bill, the colour of the bill, the colour of the legs. Can anyone guess what's wrong with these fantails?
They're not fantails.
They're not fantails. So there are other species. So the top left is a grey warbler. It's got a red eye. Its tail is kind of doing a fan thing. Someone said, look, it's a juvenile pea waka waka, but that's a juvenile pea waka waka. That's a grey warbler. The tomtit, like, it doesn't have the fantail. It's kind of cute. Its head is a lot bigger. Its head is the wrong shape. The brown creeper, there's no like cute little eyebrows. It's the tail's different as well. But all these birds are found in Dunedin. So I think the takeaway is that, yeah, we know what fantails are, but there are other birds in our lives as well, and they're that we think, like, if we see them, we might think they're a fantail, but like if we haven't heard about them. So my tip would be, if you see a fantail, just have a second look and just see if you can find some of these features in the bird. Fantails are living in the North Island, South Island, Chatham Islands, in forest gardens, parks, orchards, backyards. You see them on the beach. So they're doing pretty well. They're all over New Zealand, but they do prefer, like in the rocky outcrops of Central Otago, there aren't many fantails there. It's not as good habitat for them. So, like all birds don't live in birds' nests. They only make a nest in the spring to lay their eggs. So the fantail nest has this very long tail. It's like an 8-gram bird making that every spring. It'll lay its eggs, incubate them for 2 weeks. The eggs will hatch. They'll feed them for 2 weeks. Then they'll fledge. They'll feed them for a few, and after 6 weeks after hatching, they're out in the world, and the nest is done, never to be used again. So the nest is a very temporary situation, and that's the same for all birds, but that nest is a signature fantail nest.
Oh,
So cute. So this is a photo from Stephen Jackery from some cute fantails in Musgiel. They're really susceptible to storms, so they'll be hating this weather just as much as us. It does wipe out their populations with heavy storms and cold, but they're very good at breeding, so the numbers will populate again. But they can do cute things like this to keep warm, and like have turns in the middle to keep snugly. So what can we do to help fantails? So you can't feed fantails, you can't capture fantail food and feed it to them, because they are literally eating on the fly. So they will eat an insect when it's flying in the air. They might thresh it against a branch and perch as well, but they're using that tail to dart and manoeuvre through the air. So to make lots of insects, you can leave the leaf litter in your garden. Don't pop it in the bin. Like, make lots of insect homes. Logs and rocks are good. I'm arachnophobic. I kind of don't want to say this out loud because there's more spiders, but it's also good for lizards. And native plants are really good for native insects, and they're good for other birds as well. So planting crawfly, planting hebe, planting native plants is really, really good. And to trap as well, which Paul will show you in a minute, because there is a picture of a ship rat eating some sandtails alive, and that's what they do. So while they are not threatened, they do have mammalian threats and help them. We can also observe our interactions with them. So I'll encourage you to come up and read this article from Forest and Bird, which is about a trapper who noticed that the fantails were following him around. And people say, oh, they're not interested in you, they're interested in the bugs you stir up, because they're eating the insects. Like when you're tramping, they're like, oh, they follow me along. But they seem to be hanging out even when we're not disturbing the insects. So what do we think about that? And about your own interactions with them? Yeah, we don't know. We don't know what they're thinking. So lastly, you may have heard that fantails are bad luck, that if one flies into your home, it's a harbinger of death. And that's not science, but Piwaka Waka is mentioned in Māori legend. So, you know, like Maui, the demigod that fished up the North Island, and he slowed the sun with his flax ropes. He had quite an ego, and he thought that he would cheat death. And to do that, he was going to enter the womb of Hinenui Te Po. We don't have any children here, do we? So to do that, he was going to enter her womb and come out the other end. And then that would somehow mean that he would live forever. But he started the process, and the fantail thought he looked so ridiculous that he started laughing with the cute fantail call, which he just imagined rather than hearing. And that woke Hinenui Te Po. She was asleep. So she woke up and went, oh, what are you doing? And she squeezed her thighs together and killed him. So the moral of that story is you can be 8 grams and change the world. And it's also like when you're trying to cheat death, when you're trying to live outside of nature, it's not really a good idea. When you live in tune with nature, things are better. So come and have a read of the fantail books up the front, especially have a wee poke of the Forest and Bird article. And we'll now hear from Paul about how to help our fantails to trap those nasty rats that are eating them.
Nice one. Thanks, Steve. Okay, so, just want to give you a little update on our new super trap that we've got. Can anyone see what's going wrong here already? Bare hands. Right. So just put human stink all over that trap. No good, can't be doing that. So down at, just got technology, bait's been getting pinched all the time. And it's mice coming into the rat traps and getting the bait. So we've gone next level with this guy here, right? So it's got a rat trap in the front and it's got a mouse trap in the back. So we can have a rat can come in here, a mouse can come in here. Well, if a rat comes in first, which he's gone, but if a mouse comes in and steal the bait, which we've trained them to do because they've been doing it pretty much every night for the last few weeks, come in here, eat that, get past that trap, and then it'll come into the mouse trap and hopefully it'll set it off, boom, and then we got them, which is a beautiful thing. Because we've got the new high-end Pix peanut butter, we'll get some of them fancy rats. So we've got a little container like this, get a wee bit of bait on your finger and just a little bit, okay? So if your bait's disappearing, you might want to come and get one of these super traps. We just put a little bit in there, and I'll just remind you not to spread it all around the treadle or get it on other parts of the trap because we want to catch a rat or a mouse humanely. Right, just got to kill them in one. So same with our mouse trap. Bait that guy up the back. A little bit trickier because he's a bit smaller. And And then we set then. A little bit from the kid. Right, so he's good to go. Oh, with a bit of snap. Beef, you're right. Sometimes you've got to fiddle with these guys to get them right, and because I'm trying to show it all of you at once, it's probably not going to work. And then we load the other one. I've still got a bit of peanut butter on my fingers, right? So before we put that away, I'd rub that on there and I'd season the board, make it delicious. Right, sales and marketing, that's what they say. And then you're going to slip that into your trap and put it all the way forward, right? And then you're armed and you're good to go. So that's the absolute way to set it. If you get an animal, make sure you've got gloves on when you take them out, right? You can empty them out of your trap like this, but always with gloves on. Do all your stuff. You've got your trap in there, you're going to stuff out either side of your trap, right? Because we want to just attract a little bit of interest, that kind of thing. Take your gloves off, and very next thing you're going to do is wash your hands or sterilise them, which I've conveniently got some hand sanitizer there. Okay, got one of those in the shed out there too, so you guys that are down doing Scott Technology, places like that, sanitise your hands. So that's the super trap. Thanks to Sean who made those for us. And, they should work pretty good.
Alright, thank you. So now it's my pleasure to introduce the whole point of night camping, which is air quality. So AKV, we started going great guns with our trapping, and we started doing some bird monitoring, we started doing some water quality, and then Josh started an amazing project on air quality. And most of us don't know much about air quality, and so we kindly have an expert from the Otago Regional Council, and I'm just going to read out a brief blurb about Sarah Harrison, who's come to speak to us tonight. She's been working in the environmental science industry for 13 years, and for the last 6 years she's been leading the Air Quality Science Program at the Otago Regional Council. Most of her work is focused on monitoring, analysing and communicating air quality data. So thank you, Sarah, for coming and teaching us about what is air quality.
Thank you. Kia ora everyone. Thank you, Josh, for inviting me here tonight to talk to you all about air quality. This is probably my first community group meeting, so if I accidentally use some air quality jargon, please let me know and I'll try and remember to explain better as we go. So firstly, just going to do a bit of a background on air quality, why we monitor it, what it means, and the health impacts of air pollution. And then we're going to go through some of Josh's data and then talk a bit about how to improve air quality. And if you've got any questions along the way, please just shout them out as well. So firstly, air pollution is a global issue. This is an infographic from the World Health Organization on what are the main sources of air pollution globally. And we have all of these in New Zealand as well. So the main ones are industry, energy supply, wind-blown dust, agricultural and farming practices, household energy, especially heating, waste management and transport. So all the pollutants that we commonly look out for, they can be grouped into two groups. There's particulate matter and gases. The gases are ozone, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide and volatile organic compounds. I don't know too much about them, so I'm not going to tell you a lot about the gases. What we mostly are concerned about in New Zealand and in Otago especially is particulate matter. I think, yes, my next slide's on particulate matter. So particulate matter is just really small particles. They can be solid or liquid, they can be made of anything, and they're typically emitted when we burn stuff. So they're really small, you can't really see them unless they're in a cloud of smoke. But they're sort of classified by size, so we look at PM10 and PM2.5. And PM10 tends to be larger particles, It's sort of, they can be natural particles as well, like dust, pollen, sea salt, things like that. And PM2.5 are the small particles. They are mostly produced by combustion, and they are more harmful than PM10 as well. And in Otago, we monitor particulate matter because we exceed the national environmental standards for air quality at many locations. And just to give a bit of background about what ORC does, we have a network of 9 permanent sites. We've had them since about 2005, some of them. They're monitoring continuously, and they're doing either PM10 or PM2.5 or both. And as you can see from the map, we have more sites out in central Otago and Queenstown Lakes area, and that is because those are colder areas. They tend to have more pollution issues because they are burning for home heating with their wood fires. And however, we're constantly trying to upgrade our network, and we do want to get a lot more sites over on the coastal side. So we've got a site in Dunedin and Mosgiel and Milton though.
Where's the Dunedin one, sorry?
Oh, it's at Clyde Street at the university. Yeah. So air quality in any given place is a product of the emissions, and so that's usually what is being emitted and how much, or what is being burnt and how much is being burnt. And that interacts with the environment that it's been emitted into. So the climate, the meteorology and the topography of the environment have a huge impact on whether that pollution can be dispersed by the wind or upwards into the atmosphere, or whether it gets trapped there at ground level. And that photo is one that one of my workmates took out at Arrowtown. He was just at the park with his kids after work, and that's what it looked like. And so we're quite lucky here in Dunedin, we don't have it that bad. But yeah, Otago is probably one of the worst places in the country for air pollution from home heating. So on to health effects. This slide is focused on particulate matter, but a lot of the health impacts of all the other pollutants as well tend to be similar. So a lot of it will be respiratory and cardiovascular illness related. And the health impacts range from reduced activity days, so that's like a day where you might not do your ordinary activities, all the way up to hospitalizations and premature death. And the health burden, so those that are most impacted are elderly people, young people like children and babies, and those with pre-existing conditions. So particulate matter can give you illness in the first place, but it can also make what illnesses you have worse as well. So it's quite dangerous. And sorry, it's getting a bit technical, but this is just to demonstrate that they've researched what the health impacts are, or they've modelled it for New Zealand, and they've focused on 2 pollutants, which are particulate matter, PM2.5, and nitrogen dioxide. And we have real numbers of deaths every year due to air pollution. So it's really quite significant. This slide is showing that we have limits and guidelines for what the concentrations in the ambient air are recommended to be. And this is done by the World Health Organization again. New Zealand also has its own guidelines, which are slightly different from these ones. So they actually need to be updated so that they can become more in line with what is recommended for health. And these guidelines are usually based on short-term exposure or long-term exposure. And short-term exposure is usually about 24 hours, and long-term exposure is, like a year or longer. And those are directly link back to short-term and chronic health exposure of those pollutants. Okay, so this is what some of Josh's data looks like. just to explain it, along the x-axis is the date. So the data started in September last year, and I've got it until like yesterday. And the concentration is the y-axis, and that's an average for 24 hours. A lot of I don't know if any of you checked out the data on the website, on the ingredient website, but it usually shows you kind of like a minute average or something like that, maybe 5 minutes, like really, really short term. But we don't have any limits to compare that to, so that's why I like to look at 24-hour average, because it, you can compare it to other sites and limits quite easily. So I've also graphed that with our Clyde Street data, and they're looking pretty similar, which is quite good. I would have expected that, seeing as how we're in the same city. And yeah, there is an exceedance of the World Health Organization guideline, but the guideline does allow for some exceedances to happen, like about 3 or 4 a year. So you've only had one in the last 9 months, which is good. Not that anything happens to you if you do have an exceedance. It's just nice to know. Basically, that limit of 15 is really, really difficult to meet for pretty much all of New Zealand. So in a place like this, that would be what we'd expect to see. And one of the things I was really interested about with this data was what the daily pattern looks like. So the graph on the left is showing the time of day along the bottom axis, and you can see how there's a big peak in the evening and a little peak in the morning, and that is actually a really typical pattern that we see all over Otago, and that is indicating home heating. It's peaking at the times that people come home and put their fires on, and that's quite cool. I said that's quite cool because at our site in Clyde Street, we don't have that pattern at all. We don't really have home heating out there. It's more traffic emissions, and so the graph looks completely different to that. It just comes up in the day and then goes down at night, just to do with when people are outside driving around. And this graph is sort of the same thing, but the months are along the bottom, and it's showing, we don't have data for the next, June, July, August, because the monitoring started in September, but it is looking like it's going to be higher in winter than in summer. So these are really low summer concentrations, which is really good, but it gets a bit higher in winter. I've done these same daily graphs with some of the other things that the sensors are looking at. Oh, sorry, I should just say this is Bar Street. I haven't looked at any of the other sites yet, just Bar Street. And the total VOC is doing its own daily pattern as well. And I don't know much about VOC, and I've never seen any VOC data, but from what I gather, it's also to do with human activity and that's sort of happening during the daytime, which makes sense. And carbon dioxide, that is a climate, a climate pollutant, but also just a natural component of the atmosphere. And what that is showing us is a daily pattern when plants are photosynthesizing. Carbon dioxide goes down and then it goes back up at night. So those are pretty cool. I've never seen.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've never seen any of that data before, so that was cool to look at. And finally, what can we do to improve air quality? So I've got our website up there, ORC Burn Dry Breathe Easy, and that's got a lot of tips for how to improve air quality for home heating emissions. We mostly focus on home heating emissions here in Otago. But yeah, the best thing to do is to build a really well ventilated fire if you have a fire. And you want to use paper, kindling and dry wood. We do not recommend using anything that's not dry wood. If it's wet wood, it will just produce a lot of steam. And if it's rubbish or something, that'll be really, really toxic. So I wouldn't do that. And investing in home insulation. So home insulation, if you have more of it, the less fuel you need to burn and / the less money you need to actually spend on heating. There are things you can do without having to actually insulate your walls or anything like that, but there's things you can do if you have single glazing. You can get like cheap plastic coverings to put over your windows and sort of keep the heat in that way. Or you can get draft stoppers, things like that. Just anything like that will just generally improve the efficiency of your home. And when it comes to if you have to replace your fireplace for any reason, probably the best future-proofing thing you could do is switch over to a low or no emission appliance, such as heat pump, pellet burner, or ultra low emission burners. They're just going to emit so much less into the air around your house. And our OSC Air Plan review is in progress, so there's an opportunity there to make submissions on that plan review. They're basically updating all of the rules for home heating, but also other rules as well, such as outdoor burning and things like that. And that's probably one of the best ways that the community can influence the decision making around how we manage our air quality. So hopefully that's given you an introduction to air quality, and hopefully it wasn't too technical. But if there's any questions.
Nice.
What's an ultra low emission burner?
It's basically a new type of burner, and it's called ultra low emission burner, but there's many makes and models that you can get, and they will all have a serial number that, or like they basically have to pass a test to become called an ultra low emission burner, and so when you're looking for them, the manufacturers will know which ones are ultra low or not. But basically they just have controls on them that make sure that they burn hotter, and so that the emissions is like less smoky.
Really interesting talk. Just coming to the point about replacing the fireplace, are you aware of any financial incentives, like rates, rebates or anything that might exist in that space?
There's a Warmer Kiwi Homes subsidy run by ECA. You can check whether you're eligible for that kind of subsidy. OIC used to run subsidies, and it's something that they're thinking about again for the air plan review. And I think there might be some other ones as well. There is an organisation called the Otago, I don't know what they're called. They used to be called Cozy Homes Trust, but now they're called the Otago Housing Trust, I think now. They also help administer some of the subsidies that there are. There might be other organisations that they kind of work with to top up the Warmer Kiwi Homes one and stuff. So there is information out there. I'm not on top of it at the moment. So.
Yeah, no, that's cool, thank you.
So the data's clearly showing that at kind of that 6 p.m. in the evening, it's when those fires start, is when the heat starts to go into the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's right. But like I say, because we're in Dunedin, we're sort of a bit more coastal. It is a valley here, so it could potentially build up. I haven't really looked much further into that. If you monitored wind or something, that would be quite interesting to compare to.
Yeah. So we've always got breeze here, and the things I've seen on the air gradient map that Josh has got going is that because there's another sensor over in Northeast Valley that doesn't get the wind so much, you can often see that one building up. We're quite high, but we've obviously got the air moving through.
That's really cool. It's quite cool to sort of compare two different sites like that to see what the differences.
That spike on that day of, I can't remember what it was like. What could be some of the on that?
I don't really know. I think it's
mid-September.
Yeah, mid-September. I'm not sure what could have caused that. It could have been something really local, like a truck just running or something right next to it, or something like that. Sometimes we see spikes like that when dry fog happens, like things, not so much these days, but back in the day. I don't know. I could look closer at that day and have a look at what the data's doing on the actual day, but it can be quite hard to tell just by looking at the data.
It's super interesting, though. That's cool.
Cool.
Thanks, Sarah.
No worries.
Really appreciate your time coming in and talking with us.
Yeah, if there's any further questions that you think of later, feel free to email me. My email's on the front of the thing, so yeah.
Awesome. we've got heaps of food for you to eat or take home.
Yeah, so on the train the trainer course that Paul was talking about, there was some catering and it's been brought here for us. And I know it's kind of dinner time, so if you want to, have a wee hors d'oeuvres or I think there's enough to feed a few people there. So come and mingle and have a cup of tea and a chat. And thank you again, Sarah, for coming and talk to us and explaining those concepts to us, because when I'm driving down Kaikorai Valley, I'm not really aware of the air quality and the impact it's having. So that's something that, thanks to Josh's lead, we'll be able to start improving, hopefully, and reduce the predators and improve the water quality and make more birds like fantails. So thank you for coming out on this fresh June evening. We're finishing a little bit early today, but there'll be time for all that snacking and chatting. Next month, we're going to repeat what we did last year in July. Every Thursday in July, we're going to have movie night. So we're going to crank the fire going. I don't know if it's an ultra low heating system, but we're going to get that going. We're going to have popcorn, we're going to have snacks, we're going to have hot drinks, we're going to dim the lights and have movie night. 5:30 to 6:30 every Thursday in July. So watch out for that. So that closes the formal part of our meeting that Thursday.